Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker here with a Japanese green tea. It's coming to that time of year. A lot of the Japanese teas will be, in the next few months, will be harvested. They'll be arriving at doorsteps across the U.S. soon. So let's go ahead and look at one to see how it's going to stack up. Now, of course, this is going to be from previous years, so it's seasons, seasonality, weather conditions that change year over year can affect how teas perform. Now I'm scooping out enough here that I'm just kind of using my finger, just kind of tapping some in. I'm covering that bottom inch to inch and a half diameter of my gaiwan, which is a Chinese style. But you know, the professional taster's cup is kind of built on the gaiwan, so there are there are a lot of similarities there. The structure is fairly similar. Water's been brought to a boil, an early boil that's been cooling for about a minute, but I'm still trying to keep water here fairly standard, yet I don't want to overcook these leaves, so I'm going to just kind of leave the lid off so that more heat can escape. I think that will help this tea, and I try to do, of course, the same thing with other delicate Japanese greens. So while this is sitting and steeping briefly, go ahead and introduce this tea. This is from Aiya, A-I-Y-A. This is their PremiumGyokuro. It's available on Aiya's website. I believe it's AiyaAmerica.com. You can get 80 grams for $29.80. There's not a lot of information provided about the details of harvest and whatnot. A lot, not all, but a lot of your Gyokuros come from Kyoto Prefecture, Uji County city area there within the prefecture, Kyoto Prefecture. So that could be where this is from, although it doesn't say. It doesn't say the date or the harvest period either, so can't really say anything about that. All I can do is just kind of look at these dry leaves, talk about the smell and the appearance here. Now, Gyokuro has a nice, rich sweetness to it. It's because of the shading, because of the... This has similar characteristics to an asamushi sencha, which means there's less steaming going on. Heavier steamings in, say, a sencha get more astringent, get more of this mineral character. It's got more of a punch to it. Now the asamushi is smoother, sweeter. This one, it does have a bit thicker. It has just a thicker, creamier type of smell. It has a sweeter smell. This is sweet peas, English peas, fresh out of the garden, sugar snap peas. There's some of that kind of green sweetness going on there. The elements here, just kind of looking for just a moment. I can do it this way. I'm going to pour out a few, and yes, these are fine needles. They're filaments, I should say. You can see that they are frail. A lot of them are. Some of them are an inch or more in length, although that would be, say, 40%. The rest of them are finer, smaller. They are wrapped. They are, needle-like filament type shapes. Dark, rich green, darker green than almost going towards a bluish green type color in compared to some of the senchas you may have that are a bit more of a brighter, almost green-yellow type tinge to it. I don't see a lot, which is good. I don't see a lot of other colors, lighter greens, which may indicate the vein of the leaf. Those have been a lot filtered out to a good extent. Although there are some there, like I just said, I do see some here and there. Of course, there are a lot of other components that are less than an inch or so in length, maybe even a quarter of an inch, just kind of portions there. So that looks at our are dry leaf. Like I said, lots of fragrance, a delicate look, although it does have some filament, some vein component there in it as well. Maybe not the most finest filter, but we'll see how it compares when it comes out in the cup as well. If with a Gaiwan, it can be fair with, if you have a narrow opening, if you can make your opening as narrow as possible, you don't necessarily get a lot of leaves slipping through. Well, I got a few pieces there, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead now and talk about this wet leaf for just a moment, give it a smell here. Still lots of rich, creamy type sweetness. Think of a nice, higher quality, rich, early season non-salted butter. So it's a creamy, buttery type. A little bit of spinach going on there. A nice buttery, creamy type spinach. Still, perhaps some of that green pea coming out. I also detect a little bit more of that. It's almost a mineral. Think of kelp type. Kelp, in the ocean, it's got the minerals of the ocean. It's got some of the kelpy type, seaweed type. No, that's light. It's not harsh. It's not a heavy marine. It's just getting hints of it at this point. The creaminess is backing off, and it does have a bit more of a mineral water type component to it at this point. I could pinch out just a few of these leaf portions here. They have completely unfurled, and you can see, although they're kind of a wet mass, they're hard to really tease apart. But you can see that these are leaf portions. You see bits of vein here and there. The leaves are not fully smooth. They've gone through the processing, and so you're not going to get a lot of clean edges. You're going to get more ragged type edges, and you're going to get a variety of portions here. Some little pieces of twig or vein that didn't get filtered through completely. So that's kind of a mishmash there. A lot of the leaves are still quite dark, quite rich, again, deep, heavy green type colors, but I'm going to move on. British racing green, you could almost get into that kind of description there. I'm going to move on and talk about the liquor here. Liquor has a nice, it's got a nice, good color to it, greenish, moving over towards a green, pale, kind of greenish yellow type color. The creaminess coming out again in the liquor here. Give that a pour. Through the cup, you can still see it does have a greenish. It's not the brightest, most intense green type color. Some of them are almost glowing radioactive type green, not any kind of dangerous type of glowing green, but a nice, rich, just heavy intensity, which is not so much present at this point. I'm going to go ahead and taste it and see what we've got. Light astringency, not a heavy, harsh astringency, which is good. Creaminess. I didn't get as much creaminess in this steeping as I did off-camera previous steepings. So that off-camera previous steepings, I backed off of the water temperature some, so it did and gave it a little bit of a slower steep. So with a lower temperature, a little bit of a slower, richer steep, you did get more of the creaminess than what I have here. So this one's got a little bit more astringency, a little less creamy, a little less brothy feel. Although it still has a nice sweetness to it. And again, this is that same kind of sweet pea type of sweetness to it. Imagine if you had freshly steamed sweet peas with a little bit of butter drizzled over the top. That's close to kind of a little, like I said, a little bit of the buttery texture, some of the sweetness that's coming out here, and then you washed it down with almost like seawater minus the salt. So it's got a minerally component to it, but not salty. And that seawater kind of creates some kind of tinge of dry feeling there. There's a little bit of that still going on. Again, a faint light astringency there. So looking at this tea, comparing it to other Gyokuros, it's on par. I'm trying to see if it's if it's more towards one end or the other, and I would say it's close to the middle. I want to lean a little bit more towards a positive favorability, so I would probably give this tea something like an 89. Like I said, some nice components, especially when your water temperature is allowed to cool a little bit more. But again, you're wanting to do that for yourself. You're wanting to find that sweet spot that you prefer. Perhaps you want a little more astringency. Perhaps you want a little more intensity in the creamy, brothy texture. That's your choice. So come back to Walker Tea Review to find out about teas that you're going to choose to experiment with on your own.